Hi everyone, it's Nicki here and welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, I'm an author and an editor, and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading, TV and film, and just all the things that I love. I'm a complete fangirl, so I do like to have a good natter about the things that I enjoy. Today I'm here because I have a new book release, which is super exciting. This has been a fairly long leading process for this story, because it's coming out from Dreamspinner Press and they picked it as one of the ones to include in the first wave of their new agreement to try and get some of these books in front of a more mainstream audience as well as the usual LGBT fans. So I'm super excited. It's been a while, it's been sort of a year essentially since it was accepted by them to get to publishing stage, so I'm glad I can finally share it all with you. So the book in question is called Super For You, Bad For Me, and it is a, as the title suggests, superhero story, and I'll start off by doing my new release tag, sharing a bit of info on the book with you, and then I'll read you a very brief excerpt. So an intro to the story. As I told you already, it's a superhero tale. It's a contemporary setting. There's a lot of humour in the story. It's serious in some aspects, but it is quite funny as well. Hopefully you'll think so when you read it. And it's about a young man who suddenly acquires all these powers, wants to use them for good, but when something happens to the love of his life, it kind of tips him towards that fine line between good and evil, and he has to decide which way he's going to go. What inspired me to write this piece? I love superheroes. If you watch my channel, you'll probably know already I'm a huge MCU fangirl. I never read comic books, but since they started doing the cinematic universe, I've just become obsessed with those films. And I just wanted to do my own take on the superheroes. I had a sort of idea for this slightly nerdy main guy, what would happen if he suddenly became a superhero and got all these powers, and his life seemed to be going perfectly from then on, but then tragedy strikes. So that was the inspiration, just generally thinking about superhero stories and wanting to do my own. The main themes of the book, I guess, are looking at that fine line between what's good and what's evil, or you know, and how do you decide where that line is and what would it take to make you cross it, I guess. So the idea of redemption as well comes into play towards the latter part of the story. And I guess in some ways the responsibility of, you know, you've got these powers, how are you going to use them? Introduce the characters. So Oswell Outterridge is our hero. He's even got the double constant, or the double vowel, sorry, superhero name going on there. 00, because you know you can't not, can you? He's an aspiring actor who's still really stuck in extras hell. He's totally in love with the Kane Teague, who's our secondary character, our love interest, and he is an established movie star. And they finally meet on the movie set and romance ensues. So those are the two main guys essentially. I love Oswell. He's a little bit of a nerd, a little bit unsure of himself at first. You know, he kind of looks down on himself, doesn't think he's good enough, like in his looks, in his personality, but then getting the powers changes him. The best thing about writing the story, I had great fun writing this one. There were no real drags in the piece, I don't think. It flowed really nicely. I loved the characters. I just fell in love with Oswell. I think he's a darling, so hopefully all the readers agree. It was just a beautiful, fun piece to write. I had a great laugh putting it together. Difficulties encountered. Nothing really major on this one. The only thing I'd say is I had to research a bit to give him his superhero name, because obviously I wanted to be careful not to pick one that's already copyrighted and in use, and the first couple I thought of for him I discovered were. So I had to tweak things around a bit, but eventually that became a plus as well, because I turned it into a bit of a joke within the text about how he's got to be careful not to choose a name that everyone's already using in comics. Where can readers find the books? In all the usual places, guys. It's coming out in print, both the sort of trade publishing print size and mass market, because of this new push that Dreamspinner are doing, this new collaboration. So If you're looking for an ebook, obviously Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, direct from Dreamspinner Press, all the usual places. I will put a link in the spiel below to the blog post as soon as that goes live, because it's one of these difficult things where I have to film this video in order to get the link to include in the blog post. So I'll have to come back and insert that blog post into the spiel afterwards. But if it's not there at the time you're watching, check back later, it will be, or just keep an eye on my blog, nickijmarkus.com, and all the info will be there. So without any further ado, I'm going to read you a very brief excerpt. This is taken from the opening chapter of Super For You, Bad For Me by Aste Donia. The morning in question started much like any other, with an early call to get us nameless extras costumed, made up and in place before the A-listers descended the steps of their private trailers and joined us. Today we were shooting some action scenes, the bad guy terrorising the city and its inhabitants, only for the hero to foil his plans. I was psyched for the day ahead, since it would mark my first time working alongside Kane Teague, however distantly. Enter our hero, both figuratively and literally as it happens, for Kane played the title character in this superhero picture, but was also my personal idol, having held the coveted position of Oswell's favourite actor for nearly 3 years, uncontested. I'd adored him ever since his breakout role as the love interest in a soppy romantic comedy, and I'd followed his subsequent meteoric rise like a hawk. I watched his every appearance and scrapbooked each press clipping. I collected a million stray facts about him from social media, even those obviously untrue, and I voted for him multiple times in all the online polls, especially those that crowned him sexiest or best dressed man of the year. However, I'd never shared a set with him until now. Kane Teague was everything I wished I could be. He stood at an impressive 6'2", dwarfing my less noble stature. Muscles that in me seemed non-existent, in him were toned and expertly formed. Whereas my hair flopped into my eyes and hung lank and less carefully tended, his locks shone, always healthy and bouncy, never a strand out of place. Perhaps an impressive team of makeup artists and hairstylists contributed to that, but I'd always believed that, for the most part, it was predominantly a genetic gift, the likes of which neither nature nor my parents had seen fit to bestow upon me. A chiselled chin, razor-sharp cheekbones, milk chocolate brown eyes, with thick, dark lashes, and the most perfectly proportioned nose ever seen outside of Greco-Roman sculpture completed the picture. Not to mention that he was an amazing actor, on par with the greats such as Olivier, Brando, Irons, Fiennes and Fassbender. Ours was a strange imaginary romance, for while I worshipped him as both the embodiment of my sexual fantasies and as a talented actor, I also envied him, just a little. I hope you enjoyed that. As I said, the book is available now, so do grab your copy in print or ebook. I will be back again very soon with more news on my writing, but until then I'll say goodbye. Bye for now, everyone.